In this video, I create some dramatic, moody lighting using just 2 speedlights. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And once again, you join me in my small home studio for something that feels a bit more like a photo challenge. Because recently I was chatting to a fellow photographer who said, well, I've got a small home studio, but I don't do portraits because for lights, all I've got are just 2 basic speedlights. And surely you need more things for a creative photo shoot. Well, I disagree. In fact, I think you can be extremely creative using nothing more than basic speedlights, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. Now, to be clear, I am just going to use 2 Flashpoint speedlights. Well, 2's better than 1, I guess. However, I do have a big advantage that my studio walls are painted white and the ceiling is white, and I've got a bit of an idea of where I'm going to head with this shoot. So let's get a model in, let's get shooting. So once again, I've been joined in the studio by Fern, who's going to reprise her role as Red Riding Hood for this shoot. Now let's talk about lighting. I've got the 2 speedlights at either side of Fern, and they are equally spaced and also right in line with her shoulders. Now this is going to give a very specific sort of lighting. It's very edgy, it's very contrasty, it's quite heroic sort of light. Before I take the pictures, however, I need to check the power. So I want the lights to be equally spaced, but also exactly the same amount of light hitting both sides of Fern. So let's see what we've got. Let's do this side first of all. And I'm getting f4. Okay, f4 sounds like a good number to shoot at. What about this one? f5.6. So I'm getting more light this side than the other. If I reduce the power of the light using the remote control, I'm getting f4 equally both sides. Okay, let's take a picture like that, see how it looks. That looks very edgy, very contrasty, very dramatic lighting. But what if you don't want that really edgy, hard, shadowy lighting? Is it possible to get softer lighting? Well, actually, yes, it is. And we can use the fact we're in a small home studio to our advantage. Because rather than having the lights pointing straight at Fern, let's spin them around. So if I spin them around so they face the wall, what's going to happen is the light will bounce off the wall, it'll spread and give much softer light onto Fern. It's like it's a small reflective umbrella without actually using one. However, if you change the direction of the light, you're going to change the power. So let's remeter, see what we've got. So I'm back down to f2. Wow, I lost 2 stops. f4, there we go. So the same thing applies to this one. Let's check the power of this light. Also f2. And back to f4. So again, same power either side. Let's take a picture of Fern, see how that looks. So this time we have much softer lighting, the shadows are there, but they've pretty much disappeared, and it does look like we've just used a couple of big soft umbrellas. However, it's not just the spread of light that's going to make a difference, it's also the height of the light. So these speedlights are roughly the same height as Fern's shoulders. But if I get the same lights and I drop them right down low, let's spin them back as well so they're no longer soft. We'll go back to the hard lighting. This is going to have an effect on the shot too. Now it's worth saying that if you move the lights in this way, I've got to remeter once again, so out with the flash meter, let's check, see what we got. Let's bring it back down to f4. And with both lights now at f4 again, let's take the same shot. Here we go. Lighting from below gives a very distinctive look. It's sinister, it's more edgy, it's scary, it's very cinematic in its appearance. However, it still has that kind of hard edge feel. So wouldn't it be good if we could get that low, slightly scary looking light, but still get the softness from the other shot? Well, we can, again, using the fact we're in a small home studio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get exactly the same lights, but this time I'm going to bounce them off the ceiling. So with this angle of light, light's going to come up, bounce off the ceiling and come down, but because it's still down low, some of that light is still going to come and hit Fern in the face and give us that edgy look that we're after. So this should be a combination of looks. Let's meter that out because of course now light has further to travel, it is going to be less powerful. And once again we're back to f4 for both lights. Let's take that shot. And there you have it, soft lighting but with a sinister edge. That works really nicely, and I reckon that's the light we're going to do when we do our shoot. So, Fern, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's take some pictures. So there we go, we've got some really great shots of Fern there. These do look superb straight out of camera, but of course there's always room for a bit of Photoshop. So let's get one of these into Photoshop and we'll do a quick edit right now. Bouncing light around a small white studio is never going to be the best way to give control and direction to your light. However, I can fix some of that using post-processing tricks. So I could do this in Lightroom. I'm going to use Photoshop's Camera Raw and we'll get to exactly the same end result. So here's the picture I want to edit. Looking at it, I can see clearly the top is brighter than the bottom, which makes sense because the light was bounced off the ceiling. And it's also a bit brighter in the corners than I'd like as well. And that's really because the lights were closer to the edges. So to fix both of those problems, I'm going to come over to the local adjustment radial filter right here. Now the radial filter is a great way of adding a sort of vignette to your image. Before I use it, I'll make sure that it is set to outside, which it is. And then I'm just going to change the exposure. So I'm going to come to the little minus button here and just press it a few times till I get to -2 exposure. That might be right, it might not be. Let's come into the middle and I'm going to click in the center of the image and just sort of drag out just like that. And that gives me a lovely vignette. Now I can move it around by clicking and dragging, and it probably wants to go somewhere around about there. That looks pretty good. Okay, maybe -2 was a tiny bit strong. Let's just bring that back a little bit like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. There are other local adjustment tools as well, including the adjustment brush. Now with the adjustment brush, I can choose something like, clarity, like a bit of clarity. Let's increase that to +100. I'm just going to paint some clarity, hopefully just onto the background and a little bit onto Fern around the edges like that. That's going to bring up all of the texture in the shot. I think that looks really good with this image and background combination. However, I want to make sure that I don't get any on Fern's face because in fact I want to soften that slightly by coming up to the adjustment brush and choosing the new option and then going down to clarity and using the minus button all the way down to -100, and with a smaller brush we can just make sure we remove any clarity and soften Fern's face a little bit. Now that looks really good so far, but what about the axe that she's holding? Now that's a really important prop for this shoot and lighting effect to come together, and I really want to emphasize that. So I'm going to add a little bit more detail to the head of the axe. So once again, it's a job for the adjustment brush, and once again I'm going to come to the new option here, and then I'm going to increase the clarity just to really push some contrast into the head of the axe. And also, whilst I'm here, I'll increase the shadows in that area too. Now if you're going to increase the shadows, it's worth remembering you might bring up some noise, so I'll add in a touch of noise reduction. Right, let's come over to the head of the axe and we'll just paint on that. And you can see how that just brings up a little bit of detail there. And maybe with the same settings, we'll just do a little bit of these shadowy areas like that and just add a bit of extra detail in there. Okay, with a few other little tweaks and adjustments, there it is. There's my final picture completed. Well, I really enjoyed that challenge, and yes, with just 2 bare Speedlights, bit of planning and a bit of post-processing, it is possible to create some amazing portraits. Now, if you'd like to take up this challenge yourself, brilliant! Don't forget to leave me a comment below, let me know how you get on. Even better, of course, if you want to see more videos from myself and the other amazing presenters right here on Adorama TV, you need to be clicking on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey, thanks for watching.